Que no se oye.
Blueprint of success for peak performers just like you. And my special guest today, CTO of
Okay, let's begin. Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. Good to have you guys here. Good afternoon, and for the ones that are on Facebook Live, I hope we can give you some realtors. I can give you some ideas on what to do to get some of your offers accepted. So that's what the webinar is about. I just a little about myself. Again, my name is Elias Legra, and I own and operate the real estate company Legra Realty and Elias Legra Inc. Mortgage broker. So we have a pretty vast amount of experience in the real estate and the mortgage fields. For the last 40 years, we've been in business. Been in the same location for over 40 years, and have a lot of clients that, believe it or not, have come back to me over and over again for us to help them with their homes. Had one client that I sold one property three different times to three different buyers. I sold it first for the seller, the buyer called me to sell it, then I sold it again 3 times. So that was a record for me anyway. The real estate market right now is I would say is in turmoil, especially for the first-time home buyers. First-time home buyers are having a real difficult time trying to get their offers accepted. And I mean, I don't know about you guys, but we have when I go present an offer, normally I have to present 10 to 12 offers to get one offer in. O'Neill, it's really difficult to get those offers in. Why? Because we're competing with cash offers, and when you have an offer on the table and you have 5 offers and 3 of the offers are cash, the ones that are cash are going to win more than likely. Even if the cash offers are a little lower in value, they're going to win because the owner knows that it's a cash deal. Okay, so we got to find, as realtors, we got to find ways, techniques that we can use to help our buyers get the house they want. Right? If let's say there's buyers that do have cash, they have but they don't have all cash. They have 20% down, they have 5% down. When these homes, the properties go into these bidding wars, the offers are, the owner raises the offer, and sometimes the house sells for over the listing price. So what can we do as realtors to try to make some of these offers go through? And eventually you're helping your client because the client, is happy. He wants the house. That's the house he wants, and he's happy, and you're happy that you're getting your commission, and you're helping your buyer. So the other day I was looking over some companies. One in particular really impressed me, and I'm gonna go over this company. They basically are offering services for realtors where they step in and they with your offer, they do a cash offer. They give you like an addendum, and that addendum says that if within 30 days your buyer doesn't qualify for the mortgage, that this company is willing to go ahead and close on a cash basis. Okay. Now the company, it's not a free service. Obviously, there is a charge. Okay, but sometimes you explain it to your buyer, and if he's willing to pay the charge to have a better chance to get his offer accepted, that's up to him. If not, Many buyers that I know that are looking for, they've been looking and looking and looking. They've been placing offers, more offers and more offers. And they've gotten to the point. I had the other day a buyer that came to my office. She said she was about to give up. Okay. And unless I found a listing for her, that was not on the MLS, was the only way she was going to get the offer. So I told her, hey, it's not over. Don't say the ball game's over until it's over. Keep trying. So anyway, I'm going to introduce you here to the owner and the CEO of this company. Okay, the name of the company is Ribbon Homes, ribbonhomes.com, and I've never heard of them before, and I never heard of this concept before. First time that I heard, but it's something extra that we have guys in our arsenal. Okay, I was sitting down with a seller yesterday. Okay, I did not get the listing. Okay, he wants to sell, but I did not get the listing because he's not sure whether he's going to be able to find the house that he really wants, his dream home. Okay, he remodeled his home is beautiful. Okay, and I'm sure his home would probably sell very quickly, but he's afraid. He wants to be able to buy another home. He wants to pick the home he wants to buy, and he wants to buy it before he sells his home. Now, how can the owner, without any money, buy another property without selling his home? And what sellers out there are going to accept a contingency on the sale of a home? So I proposed to him this program. I said, look, it's going to cost you a little money, but it gives you the peace of mind. Okay, that property, you can start looking. We can start looking for a property right now. Right now, we can start looking for a property. We don't have to wait until we sell your house. Okay. And even if I sold your house and I presented a contract subject to the closing of your house, let's say even if you had let's say your house is going to be either a conventional or an FHA. Okay, what chances are that the other seller is going to want to take your offer if it's contingent upon the sale of your property? So anyway, he's happy now. He's looking for homes. I've been showing him some new homes. He's looking for a beautiful home. He wants the pool. He wants a 4-bedroom. Fairly new. And but now at least if he finds his dream home, he'll be able to buy it. Okay, right off the bat, because the company will step in and buy it cash. Okay, they'll buy it. It's like having a rich uncle. Okay, however, your rich uncle, has to be paid. Okay, but who cares paying 2% or 3% if you know that you're going to get that house? Sometimes money, peace of mind to certain people is more important than money in the bank. It really is. Now you take your first time home buyer, a lot of them don't have the money. They just don't have the funds to be able to. But what if they have a rich uncle and they say, well, I want to, or parents that they want to help their kids and their grandkids get a house. I would be willing to help my grandkids with a couple $1,000s for them to get their home. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, let me introduce you to the company, and this is an option that we all have. All right.
Welcome to Success Superstars, episode number 196, your place for inspiration and the blueprint of success for peak performers just like you. And my special guest today, Wei Gan, the co-founder and CTO of Ribbon.
Young fella.
Wei, welcome.
Thank you, Mark. Really excited to be here.
Yeah, glad you're here. And, I got today is Veterans Day, and I was recalled for Desert Storm a number of years ago, and all my neighbors tied ribbons around the tree. So ribbon ties into your name. Let's tie ribbons around the trees.
Happy Veterans Day to you, Mark, and to all the folks at JPAR who served. And thank you all for your service. I grew up in Singapore, served in the military there for 2 years as well. So a different type of Veterans Day. But I spent the last 15 years of my life in the U.S. Very, very grateful to be here. And Veterans Day is a great day to celebrate all yourself and all the great folks who've served.
Yeah, well, thank you for your service as well. Even though it was, it's just serving is such a great thing. Now, tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got here, and then we'll get into what Ribbon is all about and how it helps the modern agent, the modern consumer.
Absolutely. So, the way I got here, so I grew up in Singapore. You came to the U.S. for college, decided to stay and join the technology industry, right? And so, as part of an advertising technology company, really built out their mobile advertising. So I built when you shop on Nordstrom, it's a pair of shoes that follows you around, right? That was what I built about a decade ago. And then I joined Twitter via acquisition of that advertising technology company. And so it was Twitter on the ad side and the revenue side for about a couple of years, and then moved to New York and then met my co-founder, Shaibal Shah. And then we quickly aligned on this mission to make homeownership achievable, which was really what Ribbon is truly built around. And over the last 4 years, we've been building Ribbon out from just one market, right? Started in Charlotte in North Carolina, right, to now in 6 states, right, expanding very quickly across the rest of the U.S. And really with the core missions to make homeownership achievable, and our very unique approach to partner with agents, lenders in the real estate ecosystem, right, to empower their clients to win the home that they love.
Yeah. So the problem that Ribbon solves in the marketplace is it makes home ownership achievable for everybody. And tell us a little bit about how it works.
Absolutely. So the way that that folks use Ribbon, right? And so Ribbon primarily partners with agents. You go to ribbonhome.com, and your agent, you can sign up. The core use cases that we do there are 2 of them, right? The first one is that we help a family who needs a mortgage to buy a home, and that's 99% of all families, right? We help them upgrade their offer to a cash offer, right? And why is that really important? Because the reality is you're in this environment, right? Whether you're in Texas, whether you're in any other state around the US, it's a very competitive home buying environment, and cash is at the top of the pile of offers. And so what sellers are looking for is certainty, right? And cash provides that certainty. And so Ribbon allows the everyday family, whether you're using FHA loan, VA loan, or conventional, right, to be able to upgrade their offer to cash and win, right? So that's really our core use case. And another one as well is for those existing homeowners who need to sell their home before they can unlock the equity to afford a mortgage on the new home, right? We help those families have the freedom to buy before they sell.
Mm-hmm. Has co-founding and starting an entrepreneurial venture like this been easy?
It's you probably know this yourself, Mark. It's never easy. These ideas, there's so much transformation that's gone on over the last decade in prop tech, right? In real estate technology, in real estate overall. And when we started this 4 years ago, at that point there was some iBuying going on, so on and so forth, right? But at that point, folks thought this idea was ridiculous, right? Frankly,
right.
And that's how a lot of these things start. They seem like seems like interesting. Yeah, I'll try it after. Tell me when you've already done 1,000 deals, and then I'll consider this. And so, we're very grateful for the early adopters who took a bet on us. Notably, our first ever customer was a realtor herself in Charlotte, North Carolina. And we knew that we were onto something because, home buyers, they usually, like first-time home buyers, they buy the first home ever, right? Most families only buy a couple of homes in their lives. But we knew that if we could get a realtor on board and she understood home buying inside out, right? That if she used our product and she loved it, right? That we were onto something, right? And so, it's crazy to talk about one transaction, right? But now we're to, so many just in a day or a span of hours. But, it all starts somewhere, and that kind of, sometimes it takes a while for ideas to really make sense and to kind of catch up, right? And I think the starting of the company is always really challenging because you always got to roll the ball uphill before it starts to roll downhill.
Yeah. Well, as you and I know, we've started companies, and it's the challenges and the obstacles. Have you always been resourceful and creative and what I call a solutionist, and say, okay, the way we plan this out and what actually happens when you start getting into business, are 2 different things? And how have you learned that skill to pivot and to change and to adapt?
No, absolutely. And there's 2 sides of it, right? Because you have to have a plan, right? You have to have a plan, but you know that the plan is always going to change because the world changes, and you just learn so much so quickly. And what's that Mike Tyson quote, right? Everyone has a plan until they're punched in the face in the boxing ring.
Yeah, until there was 2 quotes. Mike Tyson and General Eisenhower basically said something around, planning is worthless, but planning is invaluable like in a battle till the first bullet is shot, then you throw the plan out the door.
Exactly. Exactly. And so the plan, and I think for us, the thing that has been really kind of critical and centering is the mission, right? The mission helps you make decisions, right? The kind of the core values that we stick to help us make a lot of decisions, even some really tough decisions along the way. And to your point around resourcefulness, even for us, as we came up with the idea, we had to adapt it a lot, and we knew that all we had was change, right? Because we're not like a giant company back then. When we got started, we're just 7 people, right? A bit of seed funding, trying to figure out an idea. Certainly now we have more resources, but we try and bring that to the table every day. A good example, is earlier this year where we introduced a product called appraisal protection, right? Mm-hmm. Because our customers were making offers and they're still putting appraisal contingencies, and the appraisal contingencies were why they were losing, right? It's why the agents were losing. It's why the home buyers were losing. And what we came up with then is a way that allowed them to waive their appraisal contingency without fear of under appraisals, right? Where Ribbon would cover the difference, right? And make sure that we can kind of help up front so that they can waive that appraisal confidently and so they can win the home. And this was introduced only earlier this year. We've obviously seen a lot of traction with it, but it kind of we need to keep kind of adapting to the environment. And real estate has changed so much. The market's gotten so much fun. And for us, needing to kind of constantly in the same way that so for us, while we're resilient, right, we all make sure that we are always listening, and so that we can quickly
Las aplicaciones se hacen a través de mí, pero ya te digo, yo no estoy haciendo aplicaciones ahora, yo tengo todo lleno.
I think we share that trait in common is one of my favorite conversations. And the book about talking, it's all about I see that in your leadership at Ribbon that flows throughout your organization. Well, is there anything else as we wrap up this episode? Obviously, they can head over to ribbon.com and check out the amazing services you have there. But anything else you'd like to share with our audience of real estate professionals today?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of innovation happening in real estate, right? And I think for a lot of agents, right, whether you're an agent, whether you're a real estate professional in the space, trying to figure out like who is my friend, right? Who is trying to displace me? I think it can be a hard thing to navigate at times. For Ribbon, we've found from day one, and core to our ethos, was that we believe in helping and empowering local real estate communities, right? Because there's agents, there's local loan officers, and these folks understand the markets really well, right? On top of that, they have the trust of local communities. And so from day one, we've always wanted to partner, and that has kind of been our greatest strength till today, right? Is that we are open to the ecosystem. We're not just open, we empower the ecosystem of agents, realtors, lenders, brokers on our platform. And so for us, it is really about empowering the local community, which is certainly home buyers and home sellers, but also agents. So it's a pleasure to be on this. Pleasure to be on this with you. It's a pleasure to kind of get in front of your realtors and on Veterans Day as well. So really appreciate you having us on board.
Yeah, no, I'm glad, and we shared in common one of our values in our culture is we empower, and I love that about what you're doing. So thank you so much for joining us today. I can't wait to have you back on another episode. And until then, may your choices reflect your hopes and not your fears.
Okay, guys, that was
Tired of listening to multiple offers?
I know I am. Let's talk about that.
Hi, this is Tom and Tanya Bird, your friendly realtors. And today we're going to talk about a company that we have partnered with that enable our clients to win in multiple offers.
That's right. It's called Ribbon Home. And Ribbon is a company that allows you to be a cash buyer, even though you may be obtaining financing or you may have to have a house to sell first. Essentially, it helps you eliminate those contingencies so that you can move forward on purchasing that home.
Right. You have a much competitive offer, and Ribbon has 2 programs, so let's dive into those. The first product that we're going to talk about today is Ribbon Boost. Tanya, tell us a little about that.
Sure. So Ribbon Boost allows you to put in a cash offer and put in a protection over the appraisal. And while you're trying to get your financing, then you actually can buy the house with the financing. And Ribbon's just kind of in the background just in case something happens and you can't secure that financing on time. And then, of course, if you can't, they buy it with the cash offer, and then you can figure out the financing and buy it back from them later after you got everything in order at the same cost that they bought it for.
Right. And essentially, from a seller's perspective, they're getting an offer that they don't have to worry about the buyer financing, because if anything happens with the buyer financing, Ribbon goes ahead and buys it.
That's right. And so now if you're able to secure a loan before they have to buy it, that's a 1% fee in Georgia.
Paid to Ribbon.
And then if something happens and you can't get your loan closed up in time, then it's a 2.4% fee in the state of Georgia.
Right, that you pay to Ribbon and then still get your financing and then buy it back from Ribbon for the price that they paid.
So the next program we're talking about today is called Ribbon Reserve. So tell us how that's a little bit different from Ribbon Boost.
It's very similar in the fact that you pay a 2.4% convenience fee and Ribbon buys the house. But in this instance, the buyer does not try to obtain financing, and the entire time it's determined that Ribbon will buy the house.
Yes, and then of course you rent back from Ribbon the house that you've reserved while you're getting your financing in order, or even if you have a house to sell. So Ribbon Reserve is a really great way to move once, reserve that house, and then go and sell your current house.
Right, and it takes all of that, I must sell my house before I can buy, contingencies away, because those just do not win in this market.
Yeah, nobody's winning with that kind of contingency right now. So now that you know a little bit more about Ribbon Home, the two different products, you can start weighing in on which one is right for you, depending on your situation. And of course, we would love to help you in your buying and selling journey.
That's right. If you're looking to move in or out of the Atlanta metro area, we are here to help. If you're anywhere else, we can absolutely make that connection for you.
That's right. And we will see you guys next time. Bye.
Okay. That's a testimony there of a realtor that uses them up in Charlotte. And, it's interesting because, you can work this program with a buyer, and you can work with a seller. Okay. If you have a seller that simply does not want to sell his home until they find another home, they will work with that seller. And if that seller finds a home that they really want, then they have time to sell their home. The Ribbon will step in and they'll buy the home cash. Okay, and then the seller or the buyer will pay them a fee. Okay, and they got their dream home. Now they can, with time, they have 6 months to sell their house. Okay, 6 months to sell the house. And in my client's example, they have enough equity to buy cash. Well, almost. They're going to have like almost $400,000 in equity when they sell their house to buy another home, and their price range is around 450, 480. So there, and this solves is a solution that didn't exist before. So I think this is something of value, guys. I really do. Okay. Let me go into the website so you have an idea of what the website looks like. Okay. Now you as realtors, you need to register for this program. Okay. So if you're a licensed realtor, you can register for the program, and it's all basically online. Everything's online. They set aside a representative to work with you. Okay, and this is new. I've not worked with them before. Okay, so I cannot tell you that I've worked with them because I just learned about it. Just the other day, about 2 weeks ago is when I actually learned about this program. Okay, see here, I'm already registered with them, And they already have my information here. See, you add your MLS, your tour of the product, you add your profile image there. Okay, my license number. Okay. And then, for example, here's where you add your buyer. Okay, you go in there and let's say you're working with a prospective buyer. You go in, okay, you fill in the information. If there's a co-borrower, you put it in here, a co-buyer. Okay, it's pretty simple. And then it'll tell you what they need. Okay, if you have a seller, you add the listing here. Okay, you add your listing here. See, once you've have listings on MLS, you see them here, and you're able to collect and compare offers. Okay, so and then has all the questions and answers for you here. Okay. Here, see, turn an offer into an all cash offer. Okay, your buyer. This is very important. Your buyer must be pre-approved, and upgrade your offer to cash to make your strongest offer. Okay, so what we do is we upload the pre-approval of your buyer to them. Okay, and they'll have the property address of the property, that they want to put an offer on, and they'll give you an estimated maximum value of that property, of what it could go for. Okay, let's see here, helpful resources. And here there's see, they explain to you, they have webinars, why ribbon. Okay, you can register for a webinar to learn more about the program. Okay, and you got the appraisal protection, which is very, very important. You can make an offer here not subject to appraisal, so which is excellent. Okay, how many sellers are worried about the appraisal, that the appraisal may not come in for the value of the property. Okay, here, make traditional offers in minutes. Okay, and they have, okay, they basically once they close on the loan, the ribbon close on the home. Okay, that's called the ribbon reserve, where they buy the property. Okay, and then you pay the fee once they buy the property. Okay, they buy it, you pay the fee. Now, if we can do the financing, we can close on that property within 3 weeks, or within the time that it says in the contract, they'll allow you to close on the property. And if you close on the property, then the fee is only 1%, 1% of the value of the contract price. Okay, so it's pretty good. I mean, they give you options, and the main thing is that your offer is gonna compete with the other offers that you have on the table. I mean, how many times we submit an offer, and first of all, the listing agent doesn't get back to us for at least a week, and then they tell you, well, we have multiple offers, and you just have to wait. I'm sorry. And if they have multiple offers, and your offer is an FHA offer, do you really think your FHA offer is going to go through? What are the chances of your FHA offer going to go through? When you're competing with conventional offers, you're competing with possibly cash offers. Now, granted, cash offers, normally, who makes cash offers? Normally, investors. Okay, investors make cash offers. Normally, their cash offers are not to value; they're lower than value. So that's something to consider. Here we're coming in with a full price offer, and with a no appraisal contingency. And if for any reason that home does not close within 30 days, Ribbon will step in and buy the home. Okay, how cool is that? So, and it's all online. You get to see here. I get a representative here that I see. Whatever I need, I know who to call. Okay, so later on down the line, I'll let you know how it works. Okay, but here basically, they have questions and answers here. What does Ribbon do? Where do you operate? How does Ribbon make money? Okay. Is Ribbon an iBuyer? Is Ribbon a lender? No, none of these. Okay. Okay. So basically, this is something that we can have in our briefcase, so to speak, for if we need it. Okay. So I highly recommend that we look into it. There's other companies that offer, similar programs. I'm not too familiar with them. This is the one that kind of impressed me the most, guys, this Ribbon. Okay. So anyway, okay, let's talk about another method. Let's say, O'Neill, you're making an offer on a property. Okay. It's not, has nothing to do with Ribbon, but you have an offer and you want to make sure that your offer gets attention. Okay, what are you supposed to do? What should you do in order for your offer to get attention? Okay, you're going to be in with 10 other offers. Okay, you're going to call the realtor and you're going to ask them, do you have multiple offers? And the realtor's going to say, yes, we have multiple offers. When are you? Your next question is going to be, when are you going to be presenting all offers? A realtor is not going to present an offer to each. He's going to tell you, well, by Thursday, by next week, Monday, I'll have an answer for you. Okay, so you're going to call the realtor the day before the offers. He presents the offers. Say, hey, listen, remember me? I'm O'Neill. I presented the offer. Oh yeah. I saw you came in with an offer. Thank you. We won't have an answer for you until next week. Or I'll have an answer for you tomorrow. Then I said, you tell them, look, my buyer has just informed me that he's willing to beat any offer that you have on the table. I just want you to know that. Okay, so please, if there's any counter offer, I appreciate if you can call me and we'll work it out. They really want the house. These buyers, first-time home buyers, they have the money, to have reserves to buy, to be able to buy the house, and even they may be able to offer more than the appraised value. So I just want you to know that, Mr. Realtor. Okay, so try to establish a relationship with that listing agent. Okay, when you've been in business for 40 years, most realtors know you. They know who they're dealing with. I've had offers accepted because the realtor knows Elias Legras. And he knows that we mean business. Okay. But how many realtors out there don't know you from Adam? But when they hear the name, the name clicks. It's an established name. They know, I've had one case I had. It was a house that I sold. This was a contingency. I sold the house conventional. Okay. The only way that I could get the seller's agent to accept the offer, it was an offer subject to the sale of the property. I had a pre-approval letter. Okay, that was about it. I had a DU and a pre-approval letter, but I didn't know that the appraisal was going to come in either. I had no idea. That seller, the seller's agent, said, Elias, I had a couple of offers, and the reason that I recommended your offer to my client was because you sold me a house 3 years ago, and I like the way you do business. Okay, so establishing that relationship is so important, with that realtor. And the longer you're in the business, the more, the more your realtors are going to know each other. Because a lot of realtors, especially the ones that are active, they'll know who you are. That's why when you're dealing with realtors, always be cooperative, guys. Always. You get a listing, it's a hot listing. You got a realtor call you on that listing. Cooperate with that realtor. Give them the service. Give that realtor the service that you would like him to give to you. Okay, as do unto others as you want them to do to you. What happens though? Most realtors, when we call them, they're not interested. They don't answer the phones. And then over the years, when you answer your phones and you talk to the realtor, you help them, guess what's going to happen? It's all going to come back to you. Your relationships with those realtors. Hey, Elias gave me something of value. You know, I trust him. You know, trust in a relationship is everything. It's more important than knowledge. It's more important than anything. You know, so that's why, you know, I told, you know, my staff here, we work with many realtors, and we, you know, my son, you know, Danny, he also works with realtors, and, you know, we get listings, obviously. And the key also is to get listings. You know, you don't want to go into the real estate business and then just work. You don't have any listings. Gotta have listings. You know, listings, like they say, if you don't have listings, you die. You don't have inventory. How can you open up a shop and expect to sell if you don't have inventory? Or if you have to depend on the inventory of someone else. But that's the case right now. We are depending on the inventory of other realtors. Okay, we have no control over that. So what do we have to do? We got to learn. We got to learn how to get our offers through, you know, the best way possible. You know, so these are a couple of tips. I mean, it's not a guaranteed thing, but it's something extra that we have. Okay. In this particular program, do you have any questions, O'Neill, regarding the? Okay, but it's something that I didn't know existed.
Yeah.
Did you know? Did you know it existed? I didn't know it existed. Another thing, I want to switch over to the financing. Okay, how important is financing in a real estate transaction? Okay, well, credit is important. Okay, but you got to have the financing. You know, without credit, you don't have financing. So I'm going to have a webinar later at 6 o'clock talking about credit. Okay, how important is credit and how we can leverage credit into the real estate and the mortgage industry where we can help people buy homes. Okay, last year I sold over $7 million as a result of credit challenged people that couldn't qualify. And by learning credit, learning the credit industry and how to use it as leverage, I was able to help my clients, help them, and then I help myself. They never thought they would be able to buy a home, you know, with the credit today. I mean, I'm talking about people that had 500, 550, 540, 560, you know, really bad credit score. Okay. But financing is critical, guys. Financing, credit. Right now, you know, when you're working with a buyer and you're new into real estate, don't just go out and start showing houses to buyers. You know, you need to make sure that buyer, number one, trusts you. Okay. And that buyer, number two, is willing to work with you and nobody else. Okay, because most buyers, there's a saying, you know, buyers are liars. You know, but you want to make sure that buyer, and how are you going to get that buyer to trust you? Relationship, man. Relationship. Build a relationship. You know, if you have to go to their house, go to their house. Well, you know what I'm talking about. You know exactly what I'm talking about. That client, believe me, is not going to go anywhere. Okay, and that's what we do with buyers. They come in here, they've come from other realtors, and I sit down with them, and I sit down with them. I orient them. I tell them, look, this is what you need to do. If they have any credit issues or if they need a credit boost, I'll show them and say, look, you need to have at least 680. 680 will be able to get you into a relatively, you know, good mortgage. A PMI, you know, PMI with a credit score of 660 and below is atrocious. I mean, atrocious. Conventional. If you go an FHA, that's even worse. FHA. So I'm not criticizing FHA because some people cannot buy a house without going FHA. Okay, but FHA has what they call a annual or a monthly premium. Okay, which is almost 1% of the mortgage, 0.85, something like that, of the mortgage amount. That client of yours is going to be paying MIP for the rest of the mortgage. Okay, and there's an upfront premium. There's two premiums on FHA. There's a monthly premium and an upfront premium. Okay, But you know what? That's why you bring your buyer here, to see what program we can get them. Okay, if that buyer cannot qualify for a conventional loan, which most can't, O'Neill. Most buyers, I'm telling you right away, that if they have a 660 and below, forget conventional. Forget it. Even if they have 5% down, forget it. Their PMI alone is going to be $300 a month. You know, and they're better off with FHA in that case. So anybody that has a 660 and above, we can go conventional. Now, some sellers don't like going FHA. That's another problem. Okay. But I tell the client, look, I've had in the last 3 or 4 years, I've had a lot of FHA deals. All the FHA loans that we've done, a lot of them, we're able to go back and refinance the loan into a conventional, thereby eliminating the PMI completely. Why? Because the value went up, right? And if they bought the house for, let's say they bought it for 300,000 5 years ago, and now the house is worth 500,000. That candidate can refi and eliminate their FHA and get a conventional mortgage. Okay, and you know all these things you explain to your buyer. You know, one of the things that I like to explain to the buyer when they tell me, hey, you know, prices are too high. You know, what's going to happen in the market? You know, rents are too high. And I'm very blunt with them. I said, how much are you paying rent? Oh, I'm paying $2,000 a month. How much are you going to be paying if you buy a house? Say $350,000 house. Oh, we'll be paying around $2,400 a month, $2,500. You're paying a little extra, but at the end of the day, you don't have rent receipts. If you pay $2,000 a month over a period of 5 years, how much have you paid? $24,000 a year times 5. That's over $100,000 a year, Scott. Got $100,000 that's been wasted. Okay, and then you got something called inflation. Do you think inflation is not going to be? Do you think we're going to be at a zero inflation rate for the next 10 years? Have we been in a zero inflation rate? No, we've had a low inflation. Granted, we've had what, 2%, 3%. Now I heard inflation is 8%. So that's why the rates are going up, because the Fed is trying to control, you know, the inflation, which they're doing a good job, and eventually they will. Okay, and hopefully, guys, with the increase in interest rates, we may see an increase in inventory. Okay, as far as properties going down in value, I don't know, you know, but it doesn't appear that way because there's too much of a demand. Okay, now. It's important to understand, you know, the differences between FHA and VA and conventional. Very, very important. FHA, remember, if you have a buyer that's 660 and below, FHA is probably the way to go. Okay, if you have a veteran that served in the military, active duty for 90 days, did you know that they could qualify for VA? 180 days, but they do have a program for veterans for 90 days active. Okay, the old rule was 180 days. If you were 180 days in the military, you're a veteran. You know, and guess what you get as being a veteran? No down payment, no PMI. The best loan in the world is, guys, the best loan in the world is a VA. Okay. That's the best loan in the world. VA is you can't beat the VA. Okay, you cannot beat it. Okay. So now, what are the limits on conventional and financing? You know, you have to understand that the programs. There's different programs. Okay, FHA went up this year. On a single family home, they went up to $460,000. So any home that you know that's 460 and below can go FHA. Okay, FHA, 3.5% down. Okay, the average closing cost O'Neill, you can figure around 3 to 3.5%. Okay, so you're looking at down payment of 3.5% plus another 3.5%. You know, we're looking around 7-8% of the total purchase price. Okay. Now, can you get a gift for the full amount of the down payment on an FHA? And will FHA allow your uncle or your dad to say, oh, I want to buy a house, I want to put the down payment for my kids on the house? Can they do that? 100% gift? You know, FHA, yes, they can. Yes, they can. Conventional, will conventional allow it? Yes, they will, but up to 3%. There's a limit on the gift. Conventional. Okay, FHA, there's no limit. 100% gift. 100% of the cash can be a gift. So that's a little thing that you need to know. You know, any new associates out there, it's important that you know that, because what if your client is short on cash, $3,000 or $4,000 short on cash? What are you going to ask them? You're not going to say, "Oh, do you have a rich uncle?" You know, you're gonna ask them, "Hey, maybe talk to some of your family. You know, do you have in-laws? Do you have your parents? Maybe they can, you know, help you with $1,000 each or three." Baja aire, que tengo frío en tu mañana.
Que no suba, ¿no?
No sé. Apágalo, no sé. It's kind of cold here in the office. Sorry about that. But you know, that's an idea. Now, did you know that FHA will also max out it'll go from $460,000 to $884,000. FHA. They go from 1 to 4 units. Okay, so you can actually buy a duplex, FHA duplex, and the maximum that they'll do on a duplex is around 580 on a duplex. On a fourplex, legal fourplex, $884,000, guys. 3.5% down, $884,000. But there is a requirement that your buyer must live in the property. The primary purpose of buying that property is not investment, is primary. Now, on top of that, guess how much FHA will allow you to use as rental income from the other unit? They'll allow you to use 90%, I believe. Okay, unless it's changed, but I believe it's 90% of the rental income, or even up to 100%. I'm not 100% sure, but 90% of that income can be used to help you qualify for the mortgage. Okay, conventional, normally they use 75%. Okay, so if you have a buyer that's tight, you know, on the ratios, you have a buyer that's going to count on the income. FHA is a great program. Okay, and especially if you buy several units, if you buy 2 or 3 or 4 units, you know, you can almost live for rent free, mortgage free, with the income of the other units. So how cool is that? Okay, these are ideas that I'm giving you guys, where you can put on Facebook, you can advertise, you know, FHA financing. Don't advertise interest rates. Never put your interest rate there, okay? Because you have to advertise APR at the same time. Let's talk about the conventional limit. Do you know what the maximum conventional limit is in Dade County right now? $548,000. The Fannie Mae limit. Okay, when the property goes above $548,000, it becomes what they refer to as a jumbo loan. Okay, a jumbo loan. A jumbo loan is a loan that's over $548,000. Now, before, in order to get a property that's $800,000, you had to have 10% down. Okay, 10% of $800,000 is how much? You know, $80,000. Now we have lenders. Okay, as I said before, guys, I'm also a licensed mortgage broker. Okay, and my NMLS is 123301. And I have several lenders that have 3.5% programs on jumbo loans. Can you imagine? On $1 million property, you can buy that property with 3.5% with $31,500. That's something that most realtors don't know. You have to know financing. Financing is very, very, very important. Okay, because each loan that you get is going to be a different animal, and our job is to try to help the client be able to afford their mortgage and to be able to get them the best possible program out there. That's why mortgage brokers are out there. We're here to help people with different types of loans. Realtors, they work with mortgage brokers, and if you're with a good mortgage broker, that's the best thing you can do, because, man, financing is everything in your transaction. Financing and credit, those two things are important. Okay. Now, one last thing I want to cover, and we're about finished now. You got to pick up the kids, right? Or no? Today you're okay. The issues with self-employed. How many self-employed people do we have here in Miami-Dade County? I mean, guys, I've never seen so many truck drivers in my life. Okay, I've never seen so many truck drivers. It must be a great business, and these truck drivers are making over 100,000 a year. Okay, they're making 100,000 a year, right? But when I see their taxes, they're not reporting 100,000 a year. They're reporting a lot less, and they can afford to buy a home, but on paper they can't. They will not qualify. And what is that? FHA, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac? What are they going to require to document your income? They're going to require your income tax returns. Okay, no longer. We're not in the old Wild West anymore. 2008, that's long gone, where anybody could buy a property without any ability to pay. That is gone. That's out the window. Okay. In fact, I'm glad that happened, because I think the lenders, I think the government, we all learned our lesson. Never ever to do that again. And not only that, but it's illegal today to put a buyer into a primary home without the lender establishing ability to pay. Okay, if they catch you doing that, you're in trouble. Okay, you're in big trouble. So that's why I don't think we're ever going to see what we saw in 2008. The values, how fast they went. People are, it's a totally different market. But guys, each market is different. Each market is different. But what do I do with a self-employed person? How do I qualify a self-employed person? Right. Well, if I see that they don't have income on their tax returns, the only way I could help them is with a program that they call called a bank statement program. Bank statement program. They some lenders will use their bank statements, and they'll go back 12 to 24 months. They'll look at their deposits, and they'll be able to establish their income based on their deposits. So guess what? We have a solution. Okay. Now, since the truck drivers, I'm using them as an example. They're making over 100,000 a year, right? So they might be able to afford a little higher interest rate. The interest rates right now have gone up. I mean, I remember 3 or 4 months ago, they were 3.5%. Oh, man, 3.5%. Now they're hovering around 5.5%. With the program, bank statement program is a little bit higher. You might pay 6 or 6.5, but you're not paying. This program does not have PMI. So again, guys, don't let go of any person that doesn't qualify, or if the lender tells you they don't qualify, we might be able to get them to qualify with their bank statements. Okay. Credit, if their credit is below average, below normal, that's okay. They might not be able to buy right now, but they're going to eventually be able to buy. Okay. And if you have a client that has, say your client needs a 580 to buy FHA, minimum 580. And they have a 575. What are you gonna do? You're not gonna tell them, hey, thank you so much. I really can't help you. No. We're going to attempt to do what is called in the industry a rescore, an immediate rescore. An immediate rescore is where you contact the credit bureau that we use, and they will give you a scenario. What if they pay off this? What if they pay off this? What if they do this? And then it'll show a model of what they need to do to get a higher, to reach that 660 or the 670 or whatever they need. So it's important. Okay. And that's our job. Okay. Our job, and at least, my why is to be able to help people achieve the dream of their homeowners, be able to have their home. That's the key. And I see so many people renting, my God, paying $2,000, $3,000 a month down the toilet. They're wasting that money for nothing, where they can be accumulating equity. Okay, they can have a home paid off in 10 years or 15 years. Okay. You pay off a home, if you want to pay it off in 15 years, you can pay it off in 15 years. Okay. If you want to pay it off in 20 years, you can pay it off in 20 years just by paying a little extra. We're about done, guys. I hope this session has been a little value. By all means, if you need to contact me for any reason, you can reach us at 305-888-2111, 305-888-2111, and I'll be happy to help you or to guide you in any way possible. O'Neill, one of my guests here, and he's in real estate, and he just got his mortgage license. So congratulations, man. Congratulations. Well, no, you got your mortgage license about a year ago or 6 months ago. Yeah. But you haven't really acted, you're not active yet. So, but anyway, congratulations. And any questions? Okay. All right. Well, thank you guys. And we'll see you again soon. Okay. We're going to have something like this every Wednesday at 4:30. We're going to have like a real estate mortgage training class and keep up with what's going on. So if you guys want to go ahead and join us, you can join us on FaceTime live, or you can subscribe to my YouTube channel. This presentation will be on YouTube. Okay. Thank you so much. And y'all have a good weekend, and hasta la vista.